Do we have a lot of work to do? Show of hands. We have a lot of work to do, and that is what we are here for. It's really to come together, bring the world together, and this is a science, technology, innovation conference, so all of you are involved in that enterprise. So in a way, our responsibility is a little bit more. For us, walls don't exist the same way that they might exist for policymakers maybe, but we're also trying to bring policymakers into the fold. So that was the genesis of this conference. Name of the organization, the forum that basically is hosting this is Global Science Innovation Forum. As the name suggests, it's about science, technology, and innovation. It's global. We have folks from around the world. I did this yesterday at the dinner. I'm going to do this again. How many of you are from Asia Pacific regions? Show of hands. Either your origins there or you've flown from there. Quite a few. Quite a few. How many of you are from Africa? Quite a few. And many of you have flown here. Actually, all of you have flown here, those who raise hands. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. It's a long, long, long trip. And how many of you are from Europe, either of European origin or flown from Europe? Thank you. And South America? Okay, wonderful. And of course, North America. Quite a few of us are from here because we are from the Bay Area or around the country. How many of you who are from the U.S. but not from the Bay Area, who come from outside? Okay, so you can see that folks that have come from all around the world to be here for this, and the idea is to dive deeper into these topics that we have, and come up with come up with solutions that address these problems. I'm going to build upon them in the coming weeks, months, and years. I'm going to quickly go over the agenda for the day. I'm sorry, the black drape, it doesn't show up there. So, sorry? Okay, there you go, perfect. So we're going to start at 9 a.m. with a session on science, knowledge systems, and civilization leadership. Yesterday at the dinner we discussed this, but we'll dive deeper into this particular session, which is really going to be about the role that societal values, the historical sort of context, and the value system of various communities around the world play in the knowledge systems that we work on and the science and technology that we see. What does AI become tomorrow? We're talking about AGI. What does AGI really mean? What does sentience mean, right? There are a number of things that we are talking about as we are shaping next post-AI era, where these tools can actually have significant impact on what we do. So that the first session is really going to be about that. The second session is going to be on, which is at 10 a.m., Geopolitics, International Security, and Critical Technologies. So it's a more strategic session, really talking about what kind of technologies are we talking about, and I don't know how many of you saw the news flash this morning. UK British Prime Minister and French President actually welcomed the potential opening of Hormuz, right? So there are these sort of really global geopolitical issues that need addressing. And is there a technological solution to that? I mean, the energy crisis that could potentially ensue from something like that, right? The third session that I'm going to be involved in as well is reimagining health. It's really about community-centered health of the future. What we talk about healthcare today is not really healthcare. It's really sick care, and isn't the model that the world will, will succeed in, because the cost of care will continue to grow, and 5 billion people around global south can't really afford that kind of care. So I think there's a need for reimagining health. So that's the third session today, and then we will do lunch, and we'll keep the lunch sort of a working lunch. So please grab your food, come to the tables that you're supposed to be on, and get started with your roundtable discussion. Even though roundtable discussion really is supposed to be 12:45 to 1:45, I would recommend that you start on that right away. Once you grab your lunch and you start bring it to these tables. So, and those roundtable discussions, the idea around those is dive deep into the abstracts that have been shared with you, but there's a draft white paper that the co-leads of the roundtables have put together, and there are 20 of them, and you all have seen them, you all have expressed your interest in. Some of you have been assigned to the ones that fit your background really well. Some of you may have been assigned to something that may not fit tremendously well to your background, but that's okay because we want cross-cutting ideas into all of these different things that we are discussing. So if you are entirely unhappy with the roundtable allocation, feel free to reach out to Dr. Megha Agrawal, who's James Ehrlich, who are managing that session. But I hope you stay on those sessions and contribute to it, because you will bring a context that others can't. And then we'll report out from those roundtable sessions for everybody, a couple of minutes per table. There are 20 tables, so it's about 45-minute session. And then we'll get into the afternoon sessions. Those are going to be focused on AI. And the title for the AI session is Who Controls Intelligence, right? Governance and security in an era of rapidly expanding, advancing AI. And then we'll have a break, coffee break, followed by the last session, focusing on energy and sustainability. And the title for that is Securing the Energy Future, Leadership at the Intersection of Sustainability, Technology, and Geopolitics. And we'll have our own Professor Stephen Chu, Nobel laureate and former Energy Secretary, along with Arun Majumdar, who's the Dean for School of Sustainability, as well as Professor Paulo Arturo. I should have gone through the other panelists as well, but I'll do that as I'm introducing those sessions. So we have a great session ahead of us, and a great day ahead of us. I'm hoping that you're getting enough sugar. At BioDesign, we have this this saying for our fellows: with enough sugar and coffee, you will invent something. Right? So I don't know if that invention is good or not, but and then the other thing at BioDesign where we say quantity before quality. So it's okay if your ideas today are not great. But idea is to have ideas. Idea is to have that discussion. Idea is to surface all of the different ideas, and or coming months and weeks and months, we'll actually shape them a little bit, structure them a little bit, put them out, and hopefully the rest of the global community builds upon it. That's our role, and that's what we are here for. Thank you so much. I would like to now invite our first session participants. I'm going to invite Bill Drexel. Okay, they are going to bring it down? Okay. All right, so it seems like we will be able to bring it down, which is wonderful. Then you can see the profiles of all the speakers and so on. Thank you, that will be wonderful. But let me actually use this time, this is wonderful actually, it gives me a chance to interact with you all. May I invite folks who have come from the farthest places. Somebody is here from New Zealand. Can I see you, Shah? Can you please share why are you here? First of all, introduce yourself. Can I get a microphone to her, please? I'm gonna put, look, I'm a professor. This is what I do in my classes. So I gotta do that. Sorry about that. But this is the point of it. This is the point of interaction. This is a community, this is a family. That's what we're building here. Introduce yourself, please, and then.
Hi, everybody. Kia ora koutou. Why am I here? It's the question I asked myself when I woke up this morning, so I'm your invitation hit me at a very good moment because I've just come from a science diplomacy summit in DC, and this was on the way back. And for 6 years, I was the chief science advisor to the Prime Minister of New Zealand. For most of that time, it was Jacinda Ardern. And I've returned to the university, and I'm really interested in everything it says on your poster. So rethinking progress,
Yes, yes.
Reconnecting with human, bringing a values frame into scientific evidence for policy, all those things. So it was at a sweet spot of my interests and a very happy coincidence that the timing suited my journey. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Julia. You've done a phenomenal work during the pandemic, and we're hoping there's a lot of lessons that we could learn from that as we look to the future. I'm going to now put on the spot our speakers from Africa. Please raise your hand. And actually, who wants to go? Do you want to share why are you here?
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Yap Boom the second. I'm coming from Cameroon, and a bit like her, I'm taking a new position. So I will be leaving for Africa CDC, the Emergency Preparedness and Response Public Health Emergency. So it's really timely for me to come here and see how all the technology can help us on improving the way we respond to outbreaks in the continent. So I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
And you're going to be on my session later this morning. Thank you so much for being here. How about Sudesh? Sudesh, do you want to talk about why you're here? Sudesh is a biodesigner. He's a professor at UCT and a long-time mentee. But Sudesh, please.
Thank you, Anurag. So when I received your invitation, I was really wondering, is it worth the 26-hour flight to come here? But I must admit it's worth every cent, because looking at the program, what really inspired us was the possibility of localization, because though we are quite good at innovation, we in Africa, in South Africa specifically, we don't translate our innovations into scalable solutions, and that's something that we have always admired, the way in which you and the Stanford Biodesign program generally does, and we were hoping that we could learn quite a bit from here, take it back home, and of course I need coffee now because it's a 12-hour.
You guys
sugar too. So to keep up with all the innovative ideas that are flowing. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, Professor Siresu is also an innovator, entrepreneur, a really great model for Global South. Lots of technologies that have come out of his lab are very responsive to South Africa's needs, global needs. Healthcare, clinical burden is shared across the world, and that's the point of global health. Global health is truly global. It's not just what happens in rural India or Africa, or it also is what happens in East Palo Alto or rural Georgia and so on, right? So all of that is part of it. We have Wilfred. Where are you? Oh, there you go. Wilfred, you're not wearing your ethnic wear that you wore yesterday. That was a lovely, lovely thing. I wish you could wear it today again.
It's here in the back. So, first of all, thank you for having us. So the reason why I'm here is it's very hard to say no to Stanford, so that's the first reason. The second reason was, how do we bring diversity to this discussion? As we all saw in 2020, we live in a very interconnected world, right? We are one flight away from another pandemic, right? Something that happens somewhere in the tropics could be here in no time. And we're now launching an Africa Biosecurity Accelerator to look at pandemic preparedness together with JPIGO. So I came here to steal some nice ideas on how to prepare, how we're going to use AI and data science for pandemic preparedness. So anyone interested in such a topic, I'm around. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting and learning from all of you.
Thank you, Wilfred. And what you're building in East Africa is amazing. It's creating an ecosystem, and in many ways, we are looking to learn from you.
Thank you.
It's both ways.
Thank you.
So it seems like the team has done a brilliant job. Applause for, without disrupting our wonderful conversation. We'll continue this. I'll use every opportunity I get to engage the rest of you. This is the point of it. I'm going to now invite our first panel of the day. I'll first invite Bill Drexel, who's the moderator for the session. Bill, please come on up. I would also like to invite Mani Dattaji to come up on the stage along with Ben Olson and Professor William Hulbert. Please come on up. Yeah. After you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me? He's the founding editor of the Kannada magazine Asima and has cultivated friendships with prominent figures across ideological lines and diverse sectors of society. I could keep going, but I've tried to condense all of these bios. Next to him is William, also known as Bill, like myself, Hurlbut. He's a physician and a consulting professor at the Neuroscience Institute of Stanford University, where he explores the intersection of biotechnology, human purpose, and moral awareness. He completed his undergraduate and medical training here at Stanford, followed by postdoctoral studies in theology and medical ethics. A leading voice in bioethics, Hurlbut has served on the President's Council on Bioethics since 2002 and is the author of numerous publications on science, ethics, and philosophy of biology, including the co-edited volume Altruism and Altruistic Love. He co-chairs 2 interdisciplinary faculty projects here at Stanford on the evolutionary origins of moral and spiritual awareness. And last but not least, we have Ben Olson, who is the founding executive director of the Faith Family Technology Network, where leading experts work together to anchor technological innovation in religious wisdom and human flourishing. He also advises big tech, faith-based orgs, and research institutions such as the Neurospirituality Lab at Harvard Medical School through his company, Intelligence. Ben pioneered responsible AI at both Meta and Microsoft. So we bring inside of these companies that are remaking the world.
and he co-authored Microsoft's first responsible AI standard, led AI governance for Windows, and co-founded groundbreaking technology for religious empowerment initiative at Microsoft Research. He's one of the first technologists to receive a major international religious freedom prize for his bridge building between technology, religion, and society. So I just want to begin, and I'll ask to start here again and work our way down by situating us. And I'll ask two related questions. First, how would you describe the roots of scientific and technological inquiry in each of your traditions? And what are the best examples from your traditions of those traditions shaping scientific or technological progress positively? Oh, well, please.
Thank you for inviting me here, and I thank the organizers, Global Science Innovation Forum, for bringing all of us here today this morning. And President Andrew was asking everybody why you are here. I also come here to share some knowledge of my civilization as a part of India, and also learn something from across the world. The best minds are here. And there are two bills on the desk I'm asked to pay. Bills, yeah. There are two bills, but I have to pay. Knowledge. The roots have been very sensory and supersensory, that which are perception and reasoning based, but also that which is beyond the limits of human knowledge. There are no segregation between spiritual and the secular in or the spiritual and the scientific knowledge in our traditions. There is a famous Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is a fine example, which is the exposition of human anatomy, mind, visual sciences, human body, action and inaction, why it acts and why it doesn't. So they have explained, but it's all considered to be spiritual text, but everything is science. So over a period of time, because of continuous invasion on country and the traditions were destroyed because of during the period of struggle and foreign rule. So now we are now accepting the whole thing. The new government has adopted a policy of education where the Indic knowledge system is being derived. So this, over a period of 1,000 years of history of struggle and foreign rule, we were made to forget the scientific traditions that they were there in my civilizational history. So that is one important thing. There is a Upanishadic tradition which even Upanishad and others had offered. It is full of cosmic inquiry. In fact, cosmos, space, are recurrent, awe-inspiring fascinations. Dialogues and debates in these texts are there everywhere. The relation between the microcosm and macrocosm trends in the scientific and technical texts of my civilization. In terms of physical world manifestations, there have been a wonderful agrarian system thousands of years ago, town planning, universities were built, and a lot of civil engineering that presuppose a high understanding of the material sciences. So this tradition of understanding nature, analyzing it, and making the best use of it, but at the same time protecting of nature. That was the tradition of the scientific approach and scientific innovations and experimentation in our traditions.
Thank you. Professor Oba.
Thank you. Very good. It's very, very good to be here with all to discuss what is very clearly an urgent moment in our civilization. According to the National Intelligence Council report, Global Trends 2030 Alternative Worlds, we're at a critical juncture in human history which could lead to widely contrasting futures. So, given the mandate of what we're supposed to begin with, I was reflecting on my own background. I'm a practicing Christian, rooted in the depth of the Abrahamic traditions shared by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And in that tradition, we're grounded in the deepest notion of the relationship between the divine and practical problems of existence. Indeed, in Psalm 36, it says, "He is the light in which we see the light." In other words, it is not enough to simply have scientific knowledge. In fact, one of the good things about having scientific knowledge is you realize that the methodology involved is inadequate for explaining the world or governing the world. So in the tradition I'm from, and you and all of us, I believe, will acknowledge that we need something higher, a more comprehensive understanding to align and empower the progress of our civilization. And ponder for a moment what a unique species we are. Harvard professor E.O. Wilson said we're just another ordinary animal species, but I don't know any other species that assembles people from all over the world in a technological setting and transforms the world we do. Indeed, our relationship with nature is crucial to who we are. We are the one species after nearly 4 billion years of the unfolding of life on this planet that is now turning to alter the planet. We have a special relationship with nature as co-creators. This is first highlighted in the first chapter of Genesis in the Abrahamic scriptures, where it says that we are the keepers and the tillers of the earth. And indeed, we have responsibility, like an elder to a trust, that we are stewards with which we must govern the earth intelligently. And this intelligence is not just knowledge, it includes the concept of wisdom. Wisdom is an overarching, comprehensive understanding of what we are doing. This is first expressed in the Judaic tradition with the words tikkun olam, which mean healing of the in the outplaying of these traditions. They've had a profound impact on the unfolding of human history. It's very plain if you look back, at least in Western tradition, and many important contributions beyond Western tradition, but within Western tradition, the spiritual foundations of Western culture were crucial in the unfolding of science in the first place. Rooted in Hebraic and Greek tradition, we gravitated away from a kind of conflicting personal gods. Early in Greek tradition, they moved beyond simply warring gods to a notion of deeper unifying truth. And in the Hebraic tradition, monotheism Yeah, there we go. In the monotheistic traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, there's an ordered universe, an intelligible order of being that we can penetrate through the capacity for rational understanding as well as for deeper spiritual comprehensive understanding. And this is played out across Western tradition in the history, all the way from St. Francis of Assisi recognizing the role of the tiniest little things and the humility of his love for the creatures through Roger Bacon is considered, he was a Franciscan too, by the way, who was considered the father of empirical science. And this is played out all the way through. For the most part, science has been viewed as compatible with religion. And I think one of the values of having a good scientific foundation is the understanding the limits of science, as I said, and having respect for the wider wisdom of humanity. And I work in the field of biomedical ethics, and one of the things I'm most convinced of, and that is that the collective wisdom of our species, in true dialogue with one another, is wiser than any one single person, and that these kind of issues that we're confronting, and I think they're very, very serious when you go from gene editing of human nature to biowarfare to our sense of who we are within this larger sphere, what prerogative we have with regard to nature. It's very clear we need the collective wisdom of humanity. Bioethics is not a subject for some rarefied group of experts, but for the whole human family on which it'll impinge, and the human future which we are the protectors of. So that's where I come from.
Thank you. Ben?
I'll follow that with a quote and a couple of concrete examples, because I think, Bill, you said the thing so wonderfully there that I was going to say, but I'll try my best. And I think there's just so many overlays of the microcosm of who we are with the cosmic world that we're a part of. And I think the lens I'd like to bring is, there's this great quote from St. John Paul II, and he said, "Faith and reason are like the two wings upon which the human spirit can contemplate the truth, and it can rise up to the truth." And so I think of that as faith and reason not being the same thing, but there being things that, yes, can complement, and things that can help us ascend to higher levels of knowing and doing too. So I think that there's this beauty that we see and perceive, there's this knowledge that we seek and desire, and there's action in the world. And I think science is a beautiful microcosm of that paradigm, of course. And we can look back on my tradition as a Catholic to Francis Bacon, of course, but I think there's also some great other ones of like Gregor Mendel and his careful perceptions of seeds and heredity as it relates to genetics, so the founding father of genetics. There's George Lemaitre, who helped Einstein come around to the concept of the universe starting at a single point or Big Bang. There's Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who helped discover the fossil of the Peking man, otherwise known as Nellie, and really pioneered this idea of we have an evolutionary history, but that's not in conflict with what we see today, with who we are and what we're becoming. And he had this vision also of where we're going. And I think there's this bit of what the wisdom traditions, religion in general, I think brings is these other paradigms and perspectives to help us see further. There's a beautiful German quote. It says, "Whoever sees more is more right." And of course, if you're seeing more and it's a mirage, that's a problem. If you're hallucinating like the AI might, that's also a problem. But if there's a possibility of seeing more and seeing more rightly, then I think that unlock is very important. And we're seeing that on the moral horizon of technology and AI today, of course. I worked it a long time, as you heard, in big tech, and my whole business there was expand your aperture, think about the impacts. Here's how we assess it for downstream impacts of these AI systems. Don't just launch it. let's think about it. Let's put guardrails against see some of the things we don't want to see for our children. So I'll leave it at that because I've left the history, looking back, and now I'm starting to talk about the future. But I want to leave you with those few quotes, few examples to build off of what my colleagues here have said. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think that's a wonderful orientation of the traditions represented here. I want to ask one question that benefits from the diversity of positions that these speakers are in. So we have a civil society leader of a major, one of the largest NGOs in the world, maybe the largest. I'll project. Can you hear me like this? Great. An educator and also someone who's worked in a lot of the companies. There we are. Oh, and mine's back as well. So I want to ask, governments and international bodies have been talking endlessly about AI and biotech governance. But actual decisions are mostly being made by a handful of companies, driven by competition and capital. So where can moral authority actually get traction, get buy-in from your experience? And I don't have a particular ordering, so whoever would like to jump in, please feel free. But I would like to hear from all three of you because I think they are the three very important vantage points into this question.
Happy to start. So, in my work, I'm finding that the labs at these big tech companies are very open to the conversations that we're having here at this moment. So, Anthropic, OpenAI, Microsoft. My time at Microsoft ended last year, and before that, I had founded what is now called the Technology for Religious Empowerment Initiative at the company. And so, So what that initiative does is bringing together in collaboration with these labs to understand impacts, the things that they care about, but really also there's deep wisdom in the texts that these traditions have, and there's deep wisdom in the approaches to wise implementation of technology given the history we just heard. And so I think that's one important aspect is bringing those into dialogue and collaboration that's missing today from the conversation. Now, of course, there's kind of the moral leadership that we see from the Vatican and from other world religions. I think there's amazing work coming out. But is that enough to steer us away from the potential negative futures that Bill shared, right? The possible futures here are many. And so I think of it like there's also a need for not just religious communities, but communities of all kinds to both coalesce and to share their voice and be heard as we're building these technologies. And so things like we're seeing in data center build-outs. I've heard some folks here are working on sustainable supply chain as it relates to that effort. Super important, and a myriad of other examples. But I think there's not yet some of the institutions that also need to exist. I say like interstitial institutions. So that's like multinational cooperations, partnerships. It's great that we're here. There's many consul generals here and consuls. I think that's something that I'd like to share. Just that perhaps if you have a twinkle in your eye of wanting to start something that and a conversation that hasn't been had. I think that in my tradition is the instinctus spiritus sancti. It's the sense of what you are here for and your purpose. And so I'd encourage you to listen to that voice and share it.
But there are two parts. One, with the self-aggrandizement and greed, or the good for all humanity thereby. The education plays an important role, and in our society, that's why the priority has been always given to scientific inquiry, education, and not separation of scientific outlook and spirituality. They are not two different things. So many a time in the world we have seen religion and science are at loggerheads. Whereas in our tradition, because of spiritual tradition and scientific inquiry, the same persons, same groups have been, they are engaged in the task of scientific inquiry and extending spiritual practices, that this intellectual tradition has integrated into our civilization and wisdom. So that the government has this background. For the ancient system, both ethical and scientific, they signals both politics, day-to-day life, security, livelihood, and yeah. These are very day-to-day issues are also being addressed. So in order to bring greater power for the humankind and the citizens, these things have to flow. Education stagnates where technology advances. The society tends to become more unequal. So if the society is lagging, or a section of society is lagging in educational advancement, the world is advancing with technology and science, then the unequal societies take birth. Whether in economic growth, education, quality of life, all connected with that. That's why on one side we have to address the inequalities, prejudices of and superstitions of society, and on the other side make scientific advancement. So the governments today has to take into consideration this very seriously. So, but the tradition has the scientific outlook, but if the education is not trying to convey that through its curriculum, then all those scientific inquiries of the past will be concluded as only superstitions. That's why there is a challenge of, before education, to find the real scientific thing and superstition separated. So this society has to exercise, and in our society this has been a challenge, but at the same time there have been innumerable efforts to show very clearly that the scientific inquiries of the past, how they have been flowed into the education system and curriculum for hundreds of years. So this has to be revived. That's why this index knowledge system is being in the forefront now today.
Thank you. And a great setup too to our educator, maybe I could say.
Well, when I was a senior medical expert, I helped start the first course in biomedical ethics. That was quite a long time ago. So for most of the years I've been teaching at Stanford ever since, and for most of the years I had good dialogue with my scientific colleagues, a little better in some ways with my colleagues in the humanities, but for the most part they considered it an intellectual subject. In 2012, the discovery of CRISPR, everybody knows about CRISPR now, so that was a big moment because suddenly my colleagues in the medical center were coming to me saying, wow, these tools are getting very powerful. In fact, we're right on the edge of being able to effect germline transformations in our species. As I said, for the first time in nearly 4 billion years of the history of life on Earth, we're a species that can transform our genetic future. What an amazing thing. By the way, let's bear in mind that that's a very complicated procedure and we can't even get microphones to work. So that means we need a little humility. And I think as we go, what Hans Jonas, the philosopher, called a progressive scale of freedom and peril. As we go forward with our technology, we're getting into denser and denser territory. I mean, we all know that we have not been totally kind to the earth, which is the cradle of our creation, and yet now we're turning to operating on our very selves. That's a whole quantum leap up in seriousness. We could derail or diminish the actual powers of our species by arrogantly thinking we understand more than we do. The Roman physician Galen said, the physician is only nature's assistant. And I think we need to take that very seriously. I've now taught 7,000 students in seminar classes at Stanford, which is a great joy and a real inspiration. And I can tell you that in spite of the fact that a huge amount of wonderful creativity and empowerment of transformation comes through businesses, we also need that youthful idealism that the students bring to guide and govern, and we need to start these dialogues very early in our civilization so that our leaders, those who are in charge of governmental operations and business decisions, will act with humility. On my service on the President's Council on Bioethics, I saw how difficult this is. We were dealing with very fundamental issues. I was on the panel on the council during what they called the stem cell wars. And that was a moment where a century of molecular biology was being genomics, for the most part. We just sequenced the human genome. That was setting up a transformation, the next major phase of scientific development, which is developmental biology, knowing the ingredients that form organisms, including the human organism. We were now studying how the organism is knit together, and that meant we weren't doing studies in dishes, we were doing studies of living organisms, and if you want to study human beings, that means living human embryos, which raises a profound and difficult question of how we're going to learn how human development unfolds without disrespecting human beings. When I did a 4-year project with Jennifer Doudna, the discoverer of CRISPR, and one of the people I met during that was a young scientist named Hu Chongqi, who you all know by another name, the guy in China who did the genetic engineering on the little twins. And I was the American who knew him the best. I met him right here at Stanford numerous times to talk to him, and months before it was announced that he had genetically engineered the germline of little twins in China, I sat here about 100 yards from here and told him, JK, don't do it. You're going to humiliate yourself, your family, your country, and global science. In fact, I even said to him, I even quoted to him the Gettysburg Address. I said, the strength of American democracy is that we listen to the collective wisdom of the community, that we participate collectively. We don't give singular power to either governments or businesses or respected scholars. We listen to everybody, including the poor, the people who raise the children, the people who work at menial tasks, and the high intellectuals. We need to hear all the voices. And so I actually told him about the Gettysburg Address, the wisdom of America is of the people, by the people, for the people. And I even sent it through the internet to him in China. I wonder what the CCP thought of receiving that. But he went ahead and did it, much to his shame and to the detriment of science. You know, the word human shares the root of earth, soil, humus. It's also the root word in Latin for humility. We are creatures of the earth. We are brought forth from the substance of the earth. We ought to have humility within the earth.
Yeah, please. As far as the last thing which Bill was referring to, the humility is how it comes. It is that we are all part of the same one original source of energy. unless this is imbibed into the minds, the one-upmanship or hegemonization of the thoughts. When you present nature as your slave, and nature is there for fulfilling our needs and greeds, then the exploitation starts. But if you teach that we are all from having the one source of energy and we are all part of it, my tradition, the Hindu tradition says that you have to respect every other creature and they are equal to us. The same source of energy that presents in me is present in you, that is present in all the flora and fauna. So because of this universal oneness that is there, this will make us not only treating others with respect and humility, but teaching the whole creature universe as one, and we are all part of that one whole.
One thing about this stage is that there is no clock visible. How are we on time? How many minutes do we have left?
We have 10 more minutes.
Okay, in that case, I do want to give the audience a chance to ask a question. Maybe I'll take 2 questions, and our panelists can decide which, or both, if they want to respond to, but I see 1 and 2.
You can have mine.
Thank you so much. This has been such a fascinating. My name is Praful. I'm from India. I work for Google, but it's just, I'm in my personal capacity. It's just fascinating to hear you talk. There's always it does not need to be AI, it's always been a debate about technology and ethics. We had similar debates with nuclear power. I'm sure the debates were there for steam engine as well. But there is a narrative that technology is somehow unethical. And I would love to get your perspective on that, and how do you reconcile with the Hindu tradition or the Christian tradition or other traditions, right? Is technology good for humanity net or not?
Good question.
Thank you. And before we get into it, let's just hear this other question, so we can decide who's going to take what.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay now. So I guess again, excellent discussion and comments. I'm interested in understanding what can we do to empower individuals with all that wisdom that you all mentioned, because one can do things at the policy level, at the government level and all of that, and that is great, but wouldn't it be nice if we can empower individuals with the kind of wisdom that you all talked about? And if we can empower individuals, then again going back to the Gettysburg Address that you mentioned, then if individuals are empowered, they can do amazing things, and that is how we can deal with the technology, that is how we can deal with some of the challenges we are experiencing today.
Thank you. Okay.
Granoff.
There was one more question from.
Mr. Granoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So feel free. We've got intrinsic morality in technology, empowering individuals, or.
There's been several references to the term wisdom. Wisdom in the Greek is gnosis, which Socrates said we remember. Wisdom in the Ayurvedic tradition is jnanam. Similarly, remembering something from the luminosity of the soul, not acquired from information or symbolic process. Could you give a definition of the distinction between intelligence, which could be artificial or biological, and wisdom, which in all of our traditions comes from something beyond information, something intrinsic in our humanity? So when we're talking about the importance of bringing wisdom to the table, we know what we're talking about. I'll give my simple one. Wisdom is the ability to clearly identify those qualities that bring us together with the source of our Creator: love, compassion, patience, tolerance. Ignorance is the attachment to qualities that reaffirm the illusion of our being separate and not part of the web of life. wisdom is remembered, intelligence can be acquired.
All right. A lot of ground covered. Feel free to not answer each of the questions, but, inspired by any of the questions, please, some final words. Maybe we'll start at the end and work our way back. Not to put you on the spot then.
Yeah, goodness. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I think my first pithy reaction is Jesus was what's called a tekton. So in Greek, he's a carpenter, a tekton. So, take that for what you will, but I think there's a lot that's implied there. What I'd like to say is I think in a spirit of science for this forum, this gathering, that I'm going to answer the intelligence versus wisdom if there's a versus. Intelligence in its root actually has in its Latin a legere, which is where we get to read from, legible, but it also really means to understand the relationship between things. It's less, intelligence is less a mechanical thing and more of understanding the relationship between things. Now we see that manifested in AI in a mathematical sense, of course, in its patterns and its webs of understanding, in quotes. But I think there's a depth there that should be plundered. What is the relationship between things? When we ask ourselves, if we know someone who's wise, I'll just take somebody from India who we all love, Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa was wise. Now, she wasn't wise in the sense of like scientific innovation, but she was wise in organizational innovation and in an innovative way of seeing others, and in a way that sees more, in my quote I gave earlier, whoever sees more is more right. She saw more in more people than was seen before and could serve others in a new way. And so I just think of it like there's a beauty in bringing that embodied wisdom, that embodied sense of who we are as humans. I think Bill covered that, human hummus and earthiness of us. And there's also this greatness in us. Mahatma Gandhi, the great one. There's a greatness in our ability to aspire and achieve and to innovate and create. And so we're always kind of somewhere in between, and we're on that journey to achieving our own purpose and greatness. Who are the saints of tech in the future? That's a good question. Who are the saints of policy of the future? I think we're in the midst of creating those, and I think we're also in the midst of creating some foes and enemies and problems too. And I'll just give one specific thing. I wanted to bring this up because I think we had a question on child safety that didn't get answered, but I think of it like in the spirit of innovation, we've harmed children in the process. We saw that through the recent litigation against Meta. I think to protect the next generations, wisdom looks like design patterns that aren't predatory. Wisdom looks like not giving kids something that addicts them within 35 minutes of viewing 250 videos in sequence. Wisdom looks like not giving them access to pornography until they're of a certain age. Louisiana saw an 80% decrease in the use of pornography by underage children with age gating as they implemented it. And I think there's things we should do so that children can choose the right freely and choose the right and good and beautiful easily. So I'll leave it at that.
So, speaking of Mother Teresa, I had the privilege of having a long conversation with Mother Teresa, and what was palpably present was the kind of emanation of love from her. It was startling, actually. And that, of course, is the heart of wisdom, love. Love builds up. Love is the comprehensive understanding for the good of life. And wisdom in the Abrahamic traditions is not simply kind of vague theoretical wisdom. There's a whole tradition called the wisdom tradition. And we speak of the wisdom of Solomon, for example. And this was very ancient. It was not just a comprehensive, vague notion. It had to do with the skills, the technologies of implementing the good. And so it's very important for us to realize that wisdom must permeate all the way to our science and technology. And that wisdom must always keep in mind the needs that our possibilities, our knowledge can meet. The world is full of trouble and turmoil. Genetics, for example, I mentioned Jennifer Doudna. One day I went in to talk with her to plan one of our conferences, and as we got up after talking for a couple of hours, she said, "Bill, sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if we're going to use genetic engineering to turn the whole world into one big GMO." Well, we don't want to do that. We want to let some of the mystery of the world, the wildness of the world, inspire us and guide us. But we want to realize that we have a special calling to help one another. And when it comes to wisdom, we should not be foolish about what we can do with our technologies. There's a whole movement of transhumanism that wants to alter human techno-sapiens and kind of altered human cyborg creatures. This is not wisdom. This is foolishness. This is arrogance. What we want to do is look at the world as a whole and recognize, for example, that according to the UN, every day 10,000 children, 10 million children a year, more than 10,000 children a day die of diseases related to malnutrition and starvation. And William Hazeltine, in the starting of the Society for Regenerative Medicine, said, "The real goal is to live forever." Okay, well, whatever you may think about that, there are more proximal goals, like taking care of one another, loving one another, and that's the heart of wisdom.
Thank you. And with the last word.
He was speaking about individuals. I think the democratization of knowledge is essential, because now the free flow of knowledge, although the knowledge creation is there, it doesn't freely flow, and more that's why this in the world now we are creating such a situation where knowledge can flow freely. But at the same time, democratization of knowledge has another aspect. That is, some traditions are they are full of superstition, and the rationality is a monopoly of somebody. It's not the case. So the democratization of knowledge of groups, communities, individuals, nations, civilizations, all these are available for all, so that there is an equal footing of all the people. Then the individuals also can have the benefit of the knowledge and scientific inquiries. And same about technology. It is any technology, because in the human welfare, the technology, as you have said, it has to be tested on 3 touchstones: economy, ecology, and ethics. The technology which disturbs the economy of a society and creates inequality, technology which exploits nature more and more in order to live a comfortable life, but the result is it exploits nature and disturbs nature's balance, and a technology that is unethical. These 3 touchstones are to be required when you use technology, whatever technology it is. And as far as knowledge and wisdom, in my tradition it is called jnana and viveka. Knowing things is knowledge, but how much you to know and use it for what is viveka, that is wisdom. So the entire Hindu tradition has enormous literature on this. That is, with jnana, if viveka is not there, the jnana will create you, as you said, ego, arrogance. So jnana has to be mended with viveka, then only the jnana, that is knowledge, vidya, is useful for oneself and also for the humanity.
Sorry, I'm told we're okay. Yeah, we've been told we're over time, but a really quick comment.
Just 1 minute. There's a saying talking about arrogance, all our prosperity. Let's remember what the real realities of the world are. There's a saying, there's no cure for luxury. And then there's another very poignant saying, luxury is a disease that we have that kills other people. We should keep that in mind.
Arrogance is not one community and one nation or a society in front of others. Arrogance before nature and creator also.
Thank you.
Sure. We're going to do a picture, and then we have some gifts for you. You know, as a STEM person, as a School of Medicine professor and an engineer by training, this was very sobering to hear. Somebody who loves technology, but about exploitation of nature and about good for everybody. And you know, luxury of one is I don't remember the exact phrase, but you know, it really sort of alerts us to the risks that we have as we're thinking about science, technology, and innovation, and we're really focusing on a small subset of humanity. We have these jackets for you. Can you please pull them up? We'll do a picture. This for me? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Well, what a brilliant session. Please make your way. What a brilliant session by these very, very wise folks here on the stage. And it sets the stage in a way for a lot of discussion we're going to have later in the day. It was heavy, but it was also needed. It was a really urgent reminder to us that what we are doing with science, technology, and innovation must serve all. It must include all in the endeavor and must serve all. So I'm going to now invite our second session, if we can change the slide. I think HR is here, wonderful. So I'm going to invite the moderator. Can we change the slide? Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's invite Mr. Vivek Sharma, who's the moderator for the next session. He's the board of directors of Kaiser Permanente and JetBlue. HR, who's the former NSA and senior fellow at Hoover. And Robin Hayes, who is the chairman and CEO of Airbus North America. What a powerful panel. I'm going to remove one chair, right? No, one we have. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yes, thank you. No. Unless you're taking an
Yeah, let's check if the microphones are working. The bell should work better. We had an issue with handheld. You want to just test it out? HR, can you do 1 minute? 1, 2, 3. I'll let you testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, all yours.
All right, thank you. Good morning and welcome to our second panel discussion titled Geopolitics, International Security and Critical Technology Collaboration and Competition, Implications for Policy Business Decisions in the Research Enterprise. So that's a bit of a long title. My name is Vivek Sharma. I will be your host and moderator for the next 1 hour. We'll start off with an introduction to our panelists. I am delighted and honored to host two of the most distinguished world leaders on a topic like this. On my left is Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster. Needs no introduction, but I'll do my bit. Over 34 years with the U.S. Army, starting with his alma mater at West Point, and then 25th U.S. National Security Advisor, currently a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute, and also a lecturer at Stanford Graduate School of Business. On behalf of everybody here and the two panelists, General, thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you. Great news.
Our second panelist is